Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody today to our City of Design talk focused on engaging youth. We're really excited to have one of our community jurors, Ackeem Salmon, along with Jocelyn Chen, here to talk about the value of engaging youth in projects and to offer some advice about how to structure projects in a way that is inviting and inclusive to the young adults who are the future, particularly when it comes to design and creativity. So we're going to hear from both Ackeem and Jocelyn and then have some time to have some discussion. So I'm going to start off by inviting Jocelyn Chen to share a little bit. She is the founder and executive director of Design Connect. She founded the nonprofit Design Connect in April 2018 to provide career pathways in creative design for Detroit students. The initiative is a result of her passion for art, design, youth education, and a strong belief in diversity and equality. Design Connect achieves its mission by connecting high school and middle school students in the city to resources, advanced education, and employment opportunities in the design industry. So Jocelyn, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Ellie. So I can start by talking about, I can give a very brief history of Design Connect, what we have done in the last 3 years. As Ellie said, I founded Design Connect in April 2018, just out of the desire to help students in Detroit. And at the time, I really didn't know what I could do, but I solved the persistent poverty, and I strongly believe in education as the primary means of getting a community out of poverty. So I did research for 4 months, trying to see whether there is any specific void in the arts ecosystem in the city. My passion is art and design. So that was the focus. And what I found was there are organizations engaged in teaching youth arts, visual arts. However, there's no career pathways provided to youth who are very serious about getting into a career in the arts. So that's how our mission was formed. I recruited a board and started a pilot program at the Detroit School of Arts in January 2019. And since then, we have been working with 100 students at the Detroit School of Arts. And we recently expanded to Cass Tech, and we plan to continue to offer our programs to other high schools in the city. Eventually, we will also work in middle schools as well to really provide a pipeline of students, of visual arts students to the high schools, various high schools in the city, specifically Detroit School of Arts. So that's a brief history. What we do, if I can share my screen, or Sydney, would you mind sharing the website link? So our program consists of okay, let me just share the screen. Can everybody see? Okay, all right. That's our website under the page Impact. I want to talk about specifically what we have, what our programming is about. There are 3 aspects. The first one is experiential learning. It's about exposing students, high school students specifically, to various design disciplines in the industry. And I always believe that if you don't see what you can be, you're not going to be it. So there are many options in the creative design industry that most students are not aware of, and also the counselors and parents. So it's not just exposing students. I probably should expand on that, but also to their family, their counselors. The second part, well, what specifically we do in this area is we take students on field trips to design firms, companies around town, help them see firsthand what designers in those specific industries do. And we also bring designers to the school, do presentation about their education career path. We do panel workshops. In the middle school, what we plan eventually do is to set up periodic sort of what we call design expo. It will be set up like a job fair where students can experience design disciplines in individual stations. So that's the first part. Second part is mentoring. We believe in long-term mentoring to help students really not only hone in their skill, artistic skill, but also give them the mental support. Because I think if you've had educational careers in the arts, you probably know that it's not an easy path. Usually parents don't support their children to get into visual arts because of the starving artist impression. So we want to provide that the skill training as well as mentor support to students. And the last part is financial assistance. We provide hardware, software, art supplies, and also scholarship. We recently set up an annual scholarship at a College for Creative Studies to encourage Detroit students to attend summer programs at CCS. So those are the three aspects of our programming. I want to touch on one initiative that we started last year, which is a design competition specifically for Detroit high school students. We call it Design Our Future because the students are our future, and what we encourage them to design are things or experiences for the future, for a better future. So we started last year. It wasn't easy trying to conduct a design competition during a pandemic, but we did it. And what's unique about this competition is we have a almost 2 months long mentoring period for finalists. So we pair finalists with professional designers for 8 weeks of individual mentoring, help them to really understand the design process because it is different from fine art. It's fine art is about self-expression, mostly. Creative design is about solving a problem, applying art to function. So the mentors meet with our finalists one-on-one for 8 weeks and really help them, again, understand the design process and help them refine their initial idea to complete it. And we had 5 finalists last year, and they all happened to be women, girl power. And we provided scholarship at the for the 3 winners, $3,000, $2,000, and $1,000. And all the finalists, I think, again, the unique part about this competition is the mentoring, and they have that continuous support, and some of them continue to keep in touch with the mentors. Our 3 winners all happened to be rising seniors last year, and this year they're all going to college. The first place, Mabuba, she's the one right here, and she's going to Harvard. Second place winner going to Savannah College of Arts and Design. And the 3rd place winner is going to Wayne State University. So we really see the value of mentoring, of especially individual mentoring. So we are running the competition again this year. We have 11 finalists, and they're going through the mentoring phase right now. In fact, this week we're taking them to the Ford House to do a mock presentation, a practice round for the final presentation. By the way, the award ceremony was held at Beacon Park last year. All the finalists presented their designs in digital form. And that's what we plan to do again this year. So they will have opportunity to practice their presentation on Thursday this week in front of the mentors. So I wanted to touch on this because this is our latest initiative on engaging youth in specific project. I forgot to mention, the theme for this year is designing for connectedness to improve mental wellness. After last year's pandemic, well, we're still actually not over it. I think we all value the togetherness, even when physical, presence is not as difficult or not feasible. So that's the theme for this year, and that's all I have. And any question, or maybe I wait till after Ackeem's presentation. So that's it from me.
We'll go ahead and we'll have Ackeem share, and then we'll take some questions after that. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And we're really excited to see the results of this year's competition. So let's invite Ackeem to speak. Of course, we all know Ackeem quite well at this point. He's one of our community jurors. He's an art teacher at the Detroit Academy of Arts and Sciences and a graduate of College for Creative Studies. So Ackeem, welcome. Oh, and you're on mute.
Okay, there you go. Oh,
There we go.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so as the introduction is, I'm one of the community jurors. My name is Ackeem Salmon, teacher at Detroit Academy of Arts and Sciences. I'm the founder of the nonprofit C Project Detroit, the creative collaborative community project, where it's directly focused on involving disadvantaged Detroit youth and the arts in building the future Detroit. So the C Project Detroit provides a platform to access education through unique community programs, conferences, events, entrepreneurial and leadership opportunities. And as an artist, my art practice spans as an art director, photographer, painter, musician, and my instrument that I focus on is the violin. And as Ali mentioned, I graduated from CCS in photography and fine art. And just anything art practice wise and my work, you can visit my website at ackeemsalmonart.com. All right, so I just wanted to touch base on these 4 words in regards to engaging youth and looking at curiosity, play, leadership, and design thinking. And more through the lens of C Project Detroit. So C Project Detroit actually was started when I was living and working in Paris in 2018. So it originally was C Project Paris. But the idea, it provided a platform to allow young artists and young professionals, along with community institutions, to work together in creating a streamline of events that the students as well as the young artists led and directed to come up with their own finalized professional event. So this was the behind the scenes of the documentary that we worked on, as well as the exhibition design process. So a lot of the outcomes were allowing the students and allowing the different professionals to get the direct access of funding, as well as connections to local institutions like Paris College of Art, ICART, the Philharmonie, the Philharmonie Paris, and all of these different institutions, as well as Paris Fashion Week, to be able to give the mentorship as well as the space and the connections and the social media connectedness to be able to give each person their ability to express themselves and work together in that context. So a lot of just working with youth spans from Detroit School of Arts and the Midtown Arts and Audio Festival, So with a lot of the abilities of getting these events, so like C Project Paris, doing Paris Fashion Week allowed this professional ability for the students to lead on and the young artists to lead on, and gave them the confidence and a different approach to education rather than just sitting and doing internships and not necessarily understand what it is like to be under pressure, under those like real life working circumstances. So working at the real life working context to the college level, to the high school level, bringing it to the Midtown Arts and Auto Festival. So I believe this was founded in 2014 or maybe a bit earlier with Miss Morrison Green and John Wood, which was like the first, one of the first art teachers at Detroit School of Arts. But when I started with 2015 in assisting directing the festival, a lot of it dived with giving the students the opportunity to direct and organize the festival under professional mentorship and guidance. So they were the decision makers. So a lot of just with C Project Detroit, it's bridging these gaps between the older and younger generation, where there's a more fluidity between decision making and problem solving and design thinking. And a lot of it is very expressive in the form of how do we now initiate that inner child, that curiosity, that playfulness with real life design and community problem solving. So as with Detroit School of the Arts and Detroit Month of Design, bringing together the art students and the visual arts majors, the dance majors, and the music majors, they were able to come up with their own ideas of how they would like to design their costumes. They were given the premise where they're collaborating with CCS fashion accessory students. Yes, they were collaborating with CCS fashion accessory students as well as students from Wayne State in the music department, and an ongoing stream of just meetings to be able to create this final event. So a lot of just what the students garnered was the different levels of perspective of again, curiosity, how they'd like to impact community based on the where they see the environment and the different issues that they choose to solve with their own artwork, but to be able to get a platform through with different institutions involved to work on and to develop their own personal skills and experiences in these unique contexts. So a really cool example, I'm just tying a whole bunch of images together. So this was in 2019, no, 2020, this was last year, with the Design in the City, with Detroit Month of Design. So the great part with working in this project, and again, going in the context of engaging youth in community design. So Design in the City allowed selected local fashion designers, fashion accessory designers, which were often younger persons, a combination of older but younger persons and persons of color with local Detroit businesses. And just as how the ethos of giving youth the platform of decision-making, being involved as a technical and creative assistant with this project allowed the decision-making just of Donovan Dewberry and helping directing his first fashion film and getting all these like resources from WeWork and Design Core, and being able to set the stage of confidence and just, creating that support system that students can now and young professionals can really take into artistic entrepreneurship. So kind of bringing it back to myself as my art profession at the Detroit Academy of Arts and Sciences. So this is as of COVID, so I teach via Zoom. So these are my students. And being involved in the community and kind of taking from the classroom where each student do present their own personality and individualities, and as persons that are connected, so being a part of an alumni and with the Mint Artists Guild, connecting my students to participate even under the context of even on the context of COVID, to be able to now have these more professional and entrepreneurial opportunities. Yeah, so among, I think a lot of these I'll just leave to the questions, but the last project as of recent is the D-Tree Studio. So the D-Tree Studio is a collaboration between the Charles Wright Museum and the College for Creative Studies. And what it is focused on is the preservation of Detroit trees. It's looking at what do the trees see throughout history. So in front of the Wright Museum, some Zelkova trees had died, and they're collaborating with CCS to create wooden artifacts to respect and honor the life of the tree. So as a mediator between the two institutions, getting students that are interning from CCS, along with from the Wright Museum in regards to interviewing like Neil Barclay and Don Tusky, but also getting involved with like the All-Noor dancers into the film process. And it's really creating these cross-institutional platforms and giving students, young professional, young artists, the ability to think critically in the aspect of design and entrepreneurship, and giving them the tools to be able to see the process and learn from it, but having mentorship along the way. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ackeem. There's so many exciting projects that you're working on, and I just really admire your personal ambitions just in terms of these platforms that you've created for youth. So I want to start with a question for both of you. We know that there is a real diversity problem in the design industry, and we also know that a lot of folks in the design industry are not necessarily including young voices in the process. And so I want to ask, what are we missing out on? You know, like, what is it that youth bring to the table? What is the special perspective that they have? And what are we missing by not figuring out ways to include them and have more young designers and designers of color in industry?
Thinking hard.
Yeah, I know both of you have, you know, been professionally in the industry or in an academic space, and so you've experienced plenty of design scenarios without their presence. And so now being involved in these projects, what are you seeing or experiencing that, you know, is really special that young adults bring to the table?
I think one thing, and I have two children of my own, and it's a common thread among children, is their minds are not really inhibited or, you know, constrained by reality. And they do need that, and as they grow, they will attain that. But in creative design, that imagination is so critical, and engaging them. And I see that through the entries the students submit for our design competition, and some of them are just, you can say, crazy out there. but that's what we need to expand, our horizon and to really design something for the future. That's exactly what we need. So I see that as exceptional value of engaging youth.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I feel this was a conversation that kept coming up, is like what exists as pop culture. So what exists as pop culture and youth culture. And I feel to be able to see and understand these definitions to be that, youth culture is always changing. And if we put it at a sense of like, I don't know, math, to be like, the youth is often influenced by previous generations, grandparents, their parents. But as these youth interact with the world, climate change, everything that naturally is drastically shifting in regards to how things occur socially, youth are working to unpack a lot of just what happened in history, but also is seeing different perspective of the immediate social shifts that need to be, paid attention to. So to be able to, and this is also the reason of why I say like a part of like my vocation, or why it's important in my own art practice and day to day, it's creating these spaces that though youth offer a lot of just creative input and expansive ideas, but also being involved in a lot of critical decision making. Because although youth is a part of the future, youth is a part of the future. Youth see, youth are able to identify so many immediate shifts and changes that, again, previous generations don't exactly see those specific pockets that are necessary for when they get older. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, that's a really valid point, just in terms of the, key issues that are, maybe top of mind for them. I'm curious too, design education is something that a lot of us, unfortunately didn't get as younger adults. And I think the field of design is evolving a lot. And I'm just curious, as you are introducing design concepts to these students and design thinking in particular, what's the response from students? Is this something that they embrace and they latch onto? Does it feel, kind of ambiguous? I'm just curious how, you're sort of introducing design, but also maybe, focusing on a more participatory approach to design.
So the response, I would say, is varied. And we do have one student this year, finalist in our competition, who really thought this is a fine art competition. So she created a piece of art, and I don't think she was exposed to design process, design thinking in the past. And so her response, I think she was surprised, caught off guard. And she actually dropped out of the. And so that's sort of the one extreme. But the other extreme is really, even for students who are not intending on getting a career in design, that design process thinking, they realize how valuable it is. The first winner at our last year's competition went to Harvard, and she's getting into bioengineering, which is as far from art as you can be. However, she really embraced the process, and I believe it will help her, because it's about critical thinking. It's not just artistic process. It's critical and artistic combined. So it's I think students who went through that kind of process can gain not only it's, even if they don't get into design industry, it's going to be valuable as a learning skill, even as a life skill. So I'm super fan of design thinking.
Yeah, in my like perspective, it's been very intimate. I feel a lot of the end results have been very individual. So for instance, I'll go back to the event in Paris. So a lot of just persons that were involved came from different perspectives, especially at the decision-making perspective, decision-making table. So one particular, his name was William, and he is a traditional, like, fine artist. So he does abstract paintings, and he would, sell in auctions and all of those things around Paris. But at the end of the project, he decided that he is now, looking critically at how art advocacy, as well as artist residencies and just exhibition design. So he's like coming from a full life as an artist to now shifting and thinking outside of himself to be like, no, he's gonna start artist residency in Brazil and all these things since see Project Paris. And I think even coming to Detroit, and with like um, with the students from Detroit School of Arts, working with the students at CCS, a lot of just those exchanges allowed a lot of just different affirmations with like what they were planning on doing. So a lot of just like insecurities that came up about like not being sure if it's like the right path to take to be an artist, or to think to take the path of design, or to take the path of art and design. A lot of just these like, I want to say real life pressured reality circumstance where time, money, and effort is on the line. And now they're faced with like interacting with people who have had years of experience. To them, who is this their first time, they've got answers for themselves. And I think just as I feel just like with Design Connect and the mentorship, at the end of it, I feel they've latched onto their own mentors, and they've like garnered that well-rounded approach to be like, this is what I feel my next step is, and they get re-educated of like the value of art and design. So that's been a lot of like outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you both have highlighted some really great examples of the personal growth and the perspective that can be gained through this experience, and the benefits to youth. I'm wondering if you have some advice for our folks who are participating in the challenge and have these community-based tech projects. If they're looking to get more youth involved in their project, what's some advice you have for different approaches, things to be aware of, and just other advice for how to include more youth in their projects?
I would say one thing I want you to be aware, it's probably, particular to this moment, is the fatigue of virtual learning, virtual participation from youth. And through our programming in the last year, even when we had students online, their cameras are off and they're not talking much, and it's just extreme fatigue. And just be patient. That's all I can say. It's yeah, that's probably the best I can say at this very moment.
Yeah, I feel so much in regards to the fatigue, because like I was teaching on Zoom this like past year, and a lot of it's like oh okay, chat, yeah, so a lot of it's looking at the sustainability of whatever decisions you make and its impact to youth. I think right now, COVID-19 presents a very unpredictable platform and circumstances where a lot of us are looking at, where are we presently and where we're going in our future. So to be able to look at what problems that have already existed in the past before the pandemic. So a lot of, dark issues were like, where opportunities, where are opportunities that I can actively participate and engage with my community to see that being changed into a future that I would like to live in. So to be able to think about that, to think about, yeah, I think it's like thinking about how whatever design project, design thinking is directly paying it forward and looking at all of the social sensitivities that are happening now, just like, Zoom fatigue, a lack of social interaction and intimacy and closeness, to existential crisis of what am I doing with my life, So it's to be able to look at all of these different things to influence the different strategies of creating a design solution or solutions. Yeah.
Thank you both. I really appreciate that advice. I know Pat has a question.
Yes, thank you both for your presentations. I just wanted to let you know that our organization, Stafford House, has always been strongly engaged in youth development. And with our current development on Oakland Avenue, we're celebrating Arise Detroit Day. We're always engaged with community, but the first Saturday in August. And so we just got word yesterday that a mentorship program from Detroit Public Schools is coming to our building on Oakland to participate in Neighborhoods Day. But youth engagement is extremely important. So, and I just wanted to point out the arts. That's not my field, but I have a daughter who was extremely artistic and she wanted to go to art school, post high school. And so she got accepted to the Illinois Institute of Arts. And so I said, okay, whatever you want to do. And she's artistic and creative, but there is this misconception among people in our school system that the arts don't pay you any money. And so my friends and neighbors and family said, why in the world are you sending her to Chicago, paying a fortune for her to study art when she won't be able to make a living when she's done with school, because there's no money in that. So how's she going to support herself? And I said, I don't really know how she's going to support herself. I don't know how much artists make, but that's her pursuit. And so I'm supporting that. And so my question to both the presenters is whether or not you are connected to the Youth Development Resource Center. The Youth Development Resource Center was started by the Salmon Foundation about 5 years ago, and we're a member of that organization. But what they sought to do was to connect youth development programs throughout the city of Detroit into an organization where we're not operating in silos and everybody knows where the youth development programs are and how we can connect and collaborate, support one another. So I wanted to know if you are connected to the Youth Development Resource Center, because right now there's about 150 youth development organizations that are members of that resource center. Salmon Foundation, puts in a lot of money into youth development in the city of Detroit, millions and millions and millions a year. So are you connected?
I'm not connected, but I want to be connected.
All right.
Yeah,
How do I?
More. Jocelyn, could you actually though speak to the comment Pat made about this idea that there's no money to be made in the arts and you'll just be a starving artist?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, students who are artistic usually don't get support from their family, going into a career in the arts. And Pat, kudos to you for supporting your daughter. And that is a misconception that we want to really change, because in the creative, fine art is fine art, painting, sculpture, and even crafts. But creative design is apply art, and there's definitely not a starving artist. Those are not starving artist type of careers. I came out of the automotive design industry, and automotive designers are extremely well paid. They're better paid than engineers, I would say. So it's something that the reason that we take students to design firms, including automotive design, which is huge in Detroit, is partly is to help them understand they can make a very stable, financially stable living doing art. And that's a message that we want to take to parents and counselors as well. So thank you, Pat, for bringing that up, and again, for supporting your daughter.
I know Jocelyn has to hop off in a moment to support her own youth in taking them to summer camp. So I'm going to go ahead and share Jocelyn's email for Design Connect in the chat. In case you have any questions, feel free to follow up directly. Do we have any other questions from the audience here? Or Ackeem or Jocelyn, do you have any questions you'd like to ask the room?
No, I would just really, I would love to see the result of your initiative and all the cool projects that you're working on. We'll love to see that. What's the completion date of this initiative?
All the projects will be finalized by the end of September, and we will have a public event October 7th to showcase all of the final concepts.
Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for having me. If you have any questions, feel free to
maybe just real quick, the date for the final event for your design competition.
It's on August 28th. And most likely it will be at CCS, College for Creative Studies, the Ford campus. And I also want to just do a quick plug in for our fundraiser. We have our annual gala on September 10th at College for Creative Studies. It's fashion design theme. It will be fun. It's called Dress for 2050, and it's on our website. So thank you so much, everyone. Hope to see you there.
Thanks, Jocelyn.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Well, we've got a few more minutes here. So Ackeem, again, if you've got any questions that you're curious about regarding the projects, or if any other folks have questions for Ackeem, now's the time.
Yeah, I don't have any direct questions. Part of it because I've been just kind of seeing the development of like the projects over time. So I'm just all here. I'm all here for like open discussion, actually. Yeah.
Great. I'm curious, Kaylin, does Assemble Sound do any project with youth-related projects?
You know, it's so funny. I mean, the residency program, we every year have at least a couple residents that are still in high school, but we actually are working on some programming for kind of developing younger producers that are in high school. So we're actually working on developing a program for this fall that will either be an after school program, like one evening a week, or take place on the weekends, just to kind of reach out more to high school aged youth in particular who might be interested in, you know, in a career in music, and also just kind of making sure that we're I don't know, just really developing their minds as far as the business side of music is concerned, and like really, because that's something that we stress with the residents as well. Like when you're an artist, you're running a small business, and a lot of artists don't know that. So we're trying to start as early as possible with that. So I would definitely, I have lots of questions for you, Ackeem, at some point as we're kind of working on developing that. We're looking at probably around 20 youths, I think, and then maybe I think we're trying to do 3 different studios, and we'll rotate them, like partnering them with a producer to kind of work on skills. So yeah, it's new for us, but I'm excited about it for sure.
No, it works, and I like how the word entrepreneurship, you know, is coming back up, because I wanted to also address what you're saying, Patricia, about, you know, about the misconception of the careers of, you know, art and design, because you can either go in 2 different directions. It's either just like Jocelyn mentioned, these like, you know, automotive designers and just all these like, you know, set design problem solving jobs, towards to administration, towards education, or even individual art practices. And a lot of times they cross over. I always say, if you see anybody that graduates with an art degree in whatever kind, BFA or MFA, you have a very well-rounded human being. Because an art and design school doesn't just teach you how to be a worker. I want to be like very like transparent for that. It teaches you how to be a full rounded just advocate of your life. I can say like many like of my like, you know, classmates graduating, you know, it's like it's like a strategy. You say, okay, I'm going to teach for this couple of years. I'm going to work in automotive design for a couple of years, and then I'm going to come right back or travel. And yeah, often persons are really well off and they're not bored compared to if you just leave with a BA in, you know, biology. You know, can you, yeah, you know, no shade on the biology, but like, you know, it's, as an artist, you have a very fun life. And I think that's the most important thing. You know, the concept that you work to live, I feel that's what, you know, a lot of times with being an artist, the ones that, you know, spend the time to just find out what's the meaning and, you know, purpose of just living, it's like creating a life that you want to enjoy, but being well off doing it.
You would get my degree, Ackeem. Thank you.
Yeah. Patricia?
I just wanted to ask whether or not Ackeem does enrichment programs at other schools beside Detroit Academy of the Arts and Sciences. Do you do any specials at other schools?
Yeah, I actually do. I work closely with Detroit School of Arts, so I'm there quite often. But definitely at the moment, especially starting in the fall, a lot of focus will be at the Detroit Academy of Arts and Science, because now the integration since COVID, I have no idea what to expect. So I know that there's going to be a lot of energy to throw into getting the elementary and middle school students and parents comfortable, because I'm the only art teacher in the building. And I think that's been really interesting navigating. But yeah, so I do enrichment programs in school settings, but also just in general, like if I'm working on different art projects, typically it's very engaging. So yeah.
I want to also circle back to something else you said, Ackeem, and something that really stood out to me when I first met you, which is you're very comfortable just sort of breaking down the boundaries between different disciplines in art and design. And this is something that I've noticed with a lot of younger folks that I've met, that they're not necessarily, oh, I want to be a graphic designer or I want to be a filmmaker. They want to learn all of it. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and if you're seeing that in the students that you work with.
Absolutely. And this comes back to the same thing of like why it's so important to bring youth to the table, because I feel as the world is going, everything is, design and art is moving fluidly. I think, you know, Jocelyn mentioned, you know, design is over there in fine art. I feel where it's going, it's doing this, you know, it's not one or the other. So if you look at a lot of just, you know, music videos that are coming out, you know, there's like CGI mixed with, you know, fine art techniques, you know, mixed with, you know, orchestra compositions to, you know, all these things. And it takes like a director or an artistically inclined person to piece those together. And I think that's where a lot of just the industries are going. It's less about, you know, and I can probably put it into a more technical term, it's less about thinking in like this industrialization complex. I think at an industrial headspace, we're always forced to think, oh, I'm gonna be this job, I'm gonna do this from 9 to 5 and all that. Now, I feel the world is going to a more human experience, you know, foundation. And I feel even college education is being challenged in this day and age because of that as well. Because, you know, if you look at a lot of college structures and institutions, they're trying to change that platform where it was only, oh, you get 1 degree and that's the field you're getting in. Now it's like, oh no, how do I make myself a very diverse and competitive person through just, education and experiences. So that's where really everything is going. As more rounded and informed you can be, the more just open to communities, open to conversations. I could even use a thing of languages. So we have the whole aspect of people who are bilingual, that speak multiple languages. It's the same thing as in art and design. The more languages you speak, the more efficient you're able to connect authentically with others. So yeah, it's a plus. I think that's where it's going, and the world is requiring that connectedness. So the more we exist in silos and this industrialized complex, the more isolated we feel. But the more we start to channel that inner child, and I feel as adults we are just like little children, and as little children has that innocent structure to be like, no, I want to play with that, I want to play with that. It's the same thing as adults. We have that multi-layer of wanting to learn and play different things, and the more skills we have, the more abilities we're able to connect and play with others and build effective communities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and something I'm really excited to see is, I think that the college model has just become very siloed, and we're supposed to be a creative space, and so I do feel like the schools that I'm seeing are having to start to respond to some students saying, you know what, I don't want to declare a major, let me learn everything. I'm curious if Josh, are you on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, I just was curious because I believe you've had some experience working with youth and some place-based initiatives. Is that correct?
Yeah, we at the Design Center, Detroit Collaborative Design Center, we will have projects that are for youth to inhabit. And one that I'm super excited about is with urban neighborhood initiatives in Southwest Detroit, and Tanya from AGI. AGI is actually building this space out. You and I are good friends of ours. We've worked with them in numerous capacities, and they came to us because their youth programming was outgrowing the spaces they had. And they had this building over on Lawndale Street that was, half of it was vacant. The other half had a legal practice in it, pro bono legal practice. And they wanted to renovate this empty portion to move their high school youth over there. And we were able to run a participatory design process with these high school students who already had the, leadership skill set. So they were leaders amongst their peers in high school, and were able to really convene their friends and neighbors to talk about design. We helped them figure out activities to get them thinking about how this space could be used, and really give them a sense of ownership of the space, and that the value for them is, like, if they aren't going to be present, then they're going to have adults really designing the space for them, and that's just really not the right path forward in our mind or theirs. So as soon as they were able to understand that, they had their friends painting floor plans and spaces for activities, and really just designing how this former Knights of Columbus Hall was going to be used in the future. If you follow AGI construction on Instagram, they often post exciting photos of the progress in that space. Yeah, it's really, I guess, is finding ways to show youth at whatever age they are how this work really does matter to them, getting them to understand the sense of ownership that they have and agency they have when given. It's really beautiful.
That's great. Thank you. And Tanya, I don't know if you would like to add, anything to that as well, but I just wanted to highlight that work that's being done.
Awesome. Thanks for the plug, Josh.
Yeah.
We really had the privilege to working with a lot of great partner organizations that are on the ground, doing the hard work and working directly with young people and residents. And so we've learned a lot from our partner organizations. When we started this journey over 3 years ago, I mean, like one of the things that changed our mission for AGI construction was the Crystal Ray project. We developed a like 6,000 square foot basement that hadn't been renovated for like 40 something years. And the kids were eating lunch out of the lunchroom, out of the gymnasium. And that kind of shifted all of our work and how we approached our work, and realized very quickly then that, construction was beyond the brick and mortar. And really it was about how these spaces would impact people, and working with young people in that process. And then shortly after, we got approached by another organization that wanted to hire us to work with youth as their clients. So we had to treat them as the clients. And in that process, we developed a design build workshop so that we could engage them with their project and help them understand where they were in the process, what was the missing pieces. They wanted to build a park, and we were like, we don't build parks, we build buildings. And Luisa's like, you know what? To build something, you have to design it. There's materials, there's things that go in it. We can do this. And so we took them through that process, and that was the Hope Park out of the Cody Rouge High School. And they had this empty lot that they had for 3 years. And they had this beautiful drawing that was done by some architects in Switzerland, and they just couldn't move the project forward. So we helped them by developing a workshop, and that really kind of shifted everything of like really, in essence, how the design build, that was the beginning of like how the design build hub came about. And we realized quickly on that we could duplicate this program with anybody and everybody. And throughout the process of the last 2.5 years of engagement, we started with the surveying, the door to door, and we partnered with organizations using youth. And what we did is we asked the youth to take ownership of that data, that survey, that information. And then we hosted a series of workshops that would kind of go into depth about like how that data was being used. Actually, we partnered with Paul Draus on that. And Paul had his students come in from U of M. And we had the students really, the high school students, lead that charge and like share that information with the college students, and then shared how that data impacted their day-to-day lives in their neighborhoods. And it was extremely rewarding, and it was a great process. And really after that, it was a trickling effect. So we did like a zoning workshop because we had to go through zoning. So we hosted a zoning workshop with the planning department where they came in and we did an interactive game with them. So we've engaged them in several different engagements that we did. They were involved in the Stories of Stanton Park. So they are absolutely brilliant. And I just echo with what somebody else said, is that, when they are empowered and they feel that they have a voice, they really become true leaders, and they are the next generation. So, it's extremely important that we get them engaged in the process as well. So thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Paul, would you like to add on to this evolving story? It's great. I love it.
Well, I was going to put something in the chat until Tanya mentioned that we had worked with them. I was going to say, yeah, we had students that came over and worked with AGI and some of the youth around kind of understanding the needs in the neighborhood around the St. Anne's Church there. And we also met with a lot of some community representatives and did some door knocking. And it was a really great experience for our students as well, kind of trying to understand how design process really has to think about all these different layers that come together when you're talking about a physical space, because it's not just a building, like Tanya said, with, a building with certain architectural features or, doors and windows and, water and stuff. I mean, this is especially at a community as rooted as that one. I mean, there are all these connections between, you know, who used to live there and what's going on in these spaces over time, and, you know, what do these things mean? And for youth, of course, they're bringing their own sets of connections and kind of cultural references and so on to that process as well. So, yeah, no, that was really great. We were able to go and do that. I still have some great shots of us riding in the back of Luis's pickup truck too.
Let's not talk about that, Paul.
So I had my students take the bus down there too, because, you know, that was a great lesson for our students, because a lot of them never had to take a bus, you know. So it's like we get on the bus at Fairlane Center across from the campus in Dearborn and say, oh, we're gonna go take a bus, you guys. Just show up, and it's cool, you know. You get on the bus, it's like it's an easy thing to do, you know. But they're all like, "What? We're gonna get on a city bus?" You know. But I think we ended up hitching a ride back with somebody I can't remember. Luis hitched us around a little bit.
Yeah, Luis loved it. It was a great, and also I'll just add to that is that it was an exchange, like an exchange of culture experience, right? Because we were creating these bridges between giving this service learning opportunity to like new understanding and depth beyond text. And that was one of the things I loved about Paul Drauss's. Paul is actually one of my professors. I'm still working on my degree. But like, that's how the connection came about too. But like giving the kids a deeper understanding, and there was this accountability of text, right? That happens in the classroom, but giving these real live experience of how this text really impact neighborhoods and people, like real people. And Paul opened up his class and the final presentations to invite the students on campus, which some students had never been on campus, and was like, U of M is kind of unattainable, or, you know, thinking about pathways when you create this inner exchange of experiences and lived experiences that made it so much more rewarding and effective. So thanks, Paul.
Thank you all for
Like back
sharing.
when we were able to meet in person, you know, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, this project and all of the projects we've heard today, I think are such great examples of this shared leadership that Akua was talking about. You know, it's not enough just bringing people to the table. You know, it's really about empowering them with decision making and giving them a real stake in it. And I think as much as we recognize the benefits to youth, I think all of us who participate in these kinds of projects actually benefit from it. So, so thank you everybody for sharing. You know, looks like we've got a lot of really great case studies, and we also have a lot of experts in our City of Design community here who have experience working with youth. So if you're looking to, you know, get more young folks involved in your project, here are a number of folks now who you can talk to for advice. So, so thank you all so much for joining us today. And thank you again, Ackeem, and thank you to Jocelyn for being here to share with us. And have a great afternoon, everybody.